what if the biggest hero in a family was someone no one expected? On a quiet farm, a wounded stray cat appears and is taken in by a loving family. He forms an unbreakable bond with Clara, a special 2-year-old girl. But something is lurking, watching, waiting. When danger finally strikes, everyone will realize that the true protector of this child wasn't a person, but a small cat with a huge heart. Get ready for a powerful story of courage, loyalty, and a heroic act no one will ever forget. Now, watch and see how Mio, the rejected cat, became this family's greatest hero. The morning was grey, typical of winter days on the Avila family's small farm, located on the outskirts of a quiet town in the interior of Brazil. Mariana, the mother, was collecting clothes from the clothesline, while little Clara, just 2 years old, was playing on the balcony under the watchful eye of her father, Ricardo. With Down's syndrome, Clara had a contagious energy, and even so small, her laughter lit up the darkest corners of the house. While Mariana was folding the sheets, she heard a faint, distant sound, like a meow, that was barely audible over the wind. She stopped, frowning, and looked around. The sound was repeated, this time a little more audibly. "Ricardo, did you hear that?" she asked, walking towards the gate. Ricardo, now with Clara on his lap, answered distractedly. "Heard what?" Before he could answer, Mariana saw something moving among the bushes near the fence. Approaching carefully, she found a cat. It was thin, with visible wounds and a back paw partially bent at an unnatural angle. Mariana crouched down, calling softly to the animal. "Poor thing. Ricardo. Come here." Ricardo hesitated for a moment. But when he saw the determined look on his wife's face, he left Clara playing in the balcony fence and went over to her. "That looks bad, Mariana. He's really hurt. We can't leave him like this." "Bring a towel so we can take him inside," insisted Mariana. Despite Ricardo's objections about the risk of infection or disease, the cat was taken into the house. Clara, with the curiosity typical of children, was immediately fascinated. "Meow!" she exclaimed, pointing with her chubby little hands. The cat, frightened at first, retreated into a corner, but it didn't take long for it to realize that it was safe. Mariana began to carefully clean the wounds, while Clara watched closely, seeming to understand that this visitor needed care. "What shall we call him?" asked Mariana as she dabbed the cat's matted fur with a wet cotton pad. Clara, as if she understood the question, murmured Mim, Me, Mio. "Mio, then," said Ricardo with a smile, still skeptical about keeping the animal. "But only until he gets better. Then we'll see." The following days brought an unexpected transformation. Mio seemed to regain his strength quickly under the family's care, especially with Clara always close by. The bond between the two grew in a touching way. When Clara crawled across the living room floor, Mio followed her at a safe distance. When she held out her hand, he hesitated, but ended up nuzzling it like someone accepting a silent pact. Mariana couldn't help but smile as she watched the interactions. "It's as if he knows she's special," she commented one evening. "Special and naughty," Ricardo replied, laughing, while Clara tried to put a bow in Mio's fur. But there was something different about Mio's gaze. Always attentive, his eyes scanned every corner of the house and courtyard as if looking for something. A feeling of constant alertness seemed to inhabit the cat's little body, but no one in the family noticed. To them, Mio was just a lucky cat and grateful for the welcome. But he knew something wasn't right outside. The sky remained heavy in the days that followed, and a sense of unease seemed to hang in the air. Mio had recovered physically, but his behavior began to change in subtle ways. He spent long periods at the window or in the courtyard, watching the horizon with unusual intensity. His yellow eyes seemed to search the sky, as if looking for something invisible to the others. Mariana noticed first. "Have you noticed how strange Mio has been lately?" she commented, As she washed the dishes in the kitchen, Ricardo, sitting at the table with Clara on his lap, looked up from the newspaper. How strange. He's just a cat, Mariana. Maybe he's just exploring. That's not it. It's as if he's too attentive and he's always looking up at the sky. Ricardo shrugged, but something in his wife's voice made him glance quickly out of the window. Mio was in the courtyard, sitting alertly, his ears back and his tail moving restlessly. Clara, oblivious to the conversation, was playing on the floor with her colored blocks. From time to time, she called out to Mio in her sweet voice, "Mio, come here," and as always, the cat would respond by running up to her and rubbing against her little hand. One afternoon, while Clara was playing in the courtyard with Mariana watching from the balcony, Mio suddenly bristled. He ran over to the girl and looked up at the sky, emitting a low, low meow, almost like a warning. Mariana frowned, following the cat's gaze, but saw nothing but dark clouds. "Mio, what is it, boy?" she asked, as she approached to take Clara on her lap. That evening, over dinner, Mariana brought up the subject again. "I have a strange feeling. It's like something is hanging around the house." Ricardo snorted. "Mariana, you're watching too many movies. That's just a cat being a cat. It hunts insects, small birds, that sort of thing." But Mariana couldn't ignore the feeling that there was something more. And Mio, with her vigilant behavior, seemed to confirm it. The next morning, while everyone was still asleep, Mio was sitting at the living room window, as usual. He saw again what he had been watching for days, a large shadow flying over the property. It was a huge bird, with black wings and eyes that shone eerily in the dawn light. It circled slowly, almost as if it were studying the terrain. Mio followed the creature's movement with her eyes, every muscle in its small body tense. The bird was no ordinary visitor, that much he was sure of. And, for some reason that he still didn't understand, he knew that his little friend, Clara, was the target. Over the days, the bird began to come closer. It perched on nearby trees, watching patiently, waiting. Mio never left Clara's side. Whenever the girl was in the courtyard, the cat stayed by her side like a furry bodyguard. It was then that Ricardo began to notice Mio's behavior. "This cat is getting strange, Mariana. He won't leave Clara alone. He's always too close. Maybe he just likes her. You know cats can be very protective. Or maybe it's time to limit this animal. I don't want him to accidentally hurt our daughter." Mariana looked at Mio, who was lying next to the sofa, his eyes fixed on Clara as she played with her rag dolls. "He wouldn't do that, Ricardo. I'm sure." Ricardo sighed, but didn't insist. Even so, his unease about the cat continued to grow inside him, while Mio remained vigilant. He knew something was about to happen. It was a quiet afternoon at the Avila estate. The shy sun had finally risen, bringing a gentle warmth that invited Clara to play in the courtyard. Mariana was sitting on the veranda, sewing, while Mio kept his usual vigil at the girl's side. Clara giggled as she piled up little colored blocks on the grass. "Mio, look," she said, pointing at her makeshift creation. The cat remained alert, its eyes scanning the sky and its surroundings, every muscle tense like a rope about to snap. That's when it happened. A dark shadow suddenly appeared, growing on the ground, as if the sky had swallowed up the light for a brief moment. Mio immediately stood up, the hairs on his spine bristling like war armor. He let out a low meow, almost a scream, and ran towards little Clara. Mariana looked up and froze. In the sky, descending in a sharp dive, came a huge bird with black feathers and hungry eyes. It was bigger than any bird she had ever seen before, with razor-sharp talons that seemed designed to catch prey much bigger than a cat. "Clara!" cried Mariana, dropping her sewing and running towards her daughter. The bird swooped down like lightning. Before Mariana could reach the girl, the creature's claws wrapped around her, lifting her off the ground with frightening ease. Clara began to cry, her voice cutting through the air like a blade as the bird lifted her a few meters. But Mio didn't hesitate. With an impressive leap for his small frame, he reached the bird and grabbed onto its body, digging his claws in hard. The bird screamed, flapping its wings in a frantic effort to shake off the attack. Mio, however, would not let go. It bit one of its wings, tearing off feathers and blood, and the pain made the bird open its claws. Clara fell. Luckily, Mariana was just below and managed to catch her in her arms before she hit the ground. The bird, still struggling against Mio, finally got rid of the cat with a violent blow and took flight, disappearing over the horizon with a deafening scream. Mio fell hard to the ground, but quickly got up, panting and covered in dust. Mariana was in shock. Clara was crying in her arms, and Ricardo, who had run out of the house when he heard the scream, arrived just at that moment. "What happened?" he asked, panting, looking at Mariana and Clara. It was a huge bird," she replied, still trying to process what she had just seen. "It caught Clara, and Mio saved her." Ricardo looked at the cat, which was a few meters away, licking one of its blood-stained paws. He narrowed his eyes, suspicion growing. "Are you saying that the cat saved her? How do you know it wasn't the culprit?" Mariana frowned. "Ricardo, you didn't see what I saw. It was the bird, that animal. It tried to take our daughter." Ricardo didn't look convinced. He looked again at Mio, who was now sitting up, watching Clara with his piercing eyes. "What if he scratched her? How do we know he's not getting aggressive?" "Don't be ridiculous," Mariana retorted, her voice laden with exhaustion and frustration. "He risked his life to protect her." But Ricardo didn't want to hear it. He took Clara in his arms and began to examine her. Although there were no signs of injury apart from a few light scratches caused by the bird's claws, his mind was already made up. "As of today, that cat won't come near Clara anymore," he declared. "I won't risk anything worse happening," Mariana tried to argue, but Ricardo was unyielding. Mio was taken into the house and locked in one of the bedrooms. He meowed loudly, scratching at the door, but there was nothing he could do. Outside, Clara looked up at the sky, as if still searching for the bird, and in the tense silence that followed, Mio, trapped and powerless, knew that the danger had not yet passed. The Avila house seemed different in the days that followed the incident. Mio, the little misunderstood hero, now spent his days isolated in the utility room, far from Clara, who often called out to him in her sweet voice. "Mio! Mio!" repeated the little girl, her curious eyes scanning the corners of the room. Mariana, sitting on the sofa with Clara on her lap, watched with regret. "Ricardo, this isn't right. He just wants to protect her. You saw how he acted that day." Ricardo, who was organizing tools on the balcony, sighed and entered the room with firm steps. "Mariana, we can't take any risks. It's a cat, not a person. We don't know how he'll react if he gets too close to her again. He saved her life. How can you be so stubborn? Or maybe he caused all this," Ricardo retorted, pointing at Clara. "You didn't see what I saw. The scratches on Clara could have been his." "Cats have unpredictable instincts." Mariana shook her head in exasperation. "You're judging without proof, Ricardo. What happened was clear to me, but if it's going to make you sleep better at night, then so be it." Meanwhile, Mio was sitting by the small window in the utility room, watching the goings-on in the courtyard. Even in confinement, he kept his posture alert, his eyes attentive to every movement of the leaves and the sky beyond the fence. Outside, the threat still loomed, and Mio knew he had to be ready. It was on a quiet afternoon that the tension reached a new level. Mariana was in the kitchen preparing lunch, while Clara was playing in the courtyard. Ricardo had installed a makeshift fence, believing it was enough to protect the girl while he sorted out some tools in the nearby shed. From his position at the window, Mio saw the large shadow again. It appeared on the horizon like a dark warning, approaching slowly and deliberately. Its sharp claws reflected the sunlight, and the flapping of its wings carried an invisible threat that only the little cat seemed to understand. It meowed loudly, desperately, clawing at the bedroom door. Mariana heard the sound and looked in its direction, but only shook her head with a sigh. Poor Mio. He must be bored. But something was different. Mio's meowing was insistent, almost a scream. Mariana stopped what she was doing and looked out of the kitchen window. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but her heart raced as if a foreboding had taken hold. In the courtyard, Clara was laughing as she played with her blocks. Her laughter was a peaceful melody that filled the air, but Mio wasn't calm. He kept meowing, scratching the door harder. "Ricardo!" Mariana shouted, going to the back door. "What now?" he replied, emerging from the shed with grease-stained hands. "Something's wrong. Mio's acting strange." "He knows something." Ricardo snorted. "Mariana, you're exaggerating. He's just a cat. And if you keep paying attention to him, you'll get even more anxious." But Mariana wasn't convinced. Returning to the kitchen, she looked out again, her eyes locked on Clara. And then she saw it. The huge black bird was standing in the nearest tree, watching. Its eyes glowed like embers, and the way it tilted its head seemed deliberate, almost calculating. Mariana felt a shiver run down her spine. "Ricardo!" she shouted again, but her voice barely came out. Before she could react, the bird swooped down quickly, getting closer and closer to Clara. Mio, still trapped in the room, let out one last meow of anguish. He needed to act, and fast. With an agile leap, he climbed onto the bench near the window and forced his small body through the open gap. When his mother finally started to run outside, Mio was already in the courtyard, ready to fight again. Mariana's scream echoed through the courtyard, but she couldn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the huge black bird that was rapidly descending towards Clara, its wings spread out like a curtain of darkness. The girl, oblivious to the danger, looked up at the sky and clapped her hands, enchanted by the majestic movement of the animal. Ricardo ran out of the shed, dropping his tools on the ground. "Clara, don't move!" he shouted, but his own body seemed paralyzed with fear. And then Mio appeared. With an agile leap, he flew out of the kitchen window and landed in the courtyard, running like an arrow towards the girl. His hair was completely bristling, his eyes shining with determination. He knew he had no choice. The bird swooped, its sharp claws stretching out towards Clara. Mariana screamed again, but couldn't move her legs. Ricardo ran as fast as he could, but it wouldn't be fast enough. At the last moment, Mio jumped, colliding with the bird in mid-air. The impact was strong, and both fell to the ground, rolling around in a frantic struggle. The bird screamed in fury, flapping its wings wildly to try and get away from the little cat, but Mio was relentless. It dug its claws into the black feathers and bit down hard on one of the wings. Clara began to cry, frightened by the commotion. Ricardo reached her, picked her up and quickly backed away from the fight. "My God, he's fighting the bird," Ricardo muttered, incredulous. "I told you. He was protecting her the whole time," replied Mariana, tears streaming down her face. The bird, now wounded, tried to take flight again, but Mio wouldn't let go. It clung on with all its might, its little body driven by pure protective instinct. When the bird finally managed to take off a few meters, Mio bit it a second time, pulling out a handful of feathers. The pain caused the creature to let out a terrifying scream and plummet back to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Mio let go and took a few steps back, watching as the defeated bird flapped its wings awkwardly and took off, disappearing over the horizon. Silence overtook the courtyard. Mariana ran over to Mio, who was now lying on the grass, panting and with a few small wounds on his flanks. "Mio, my God, are you all right?" She carefully picked him up and examined him. Clara, still in Ricardo's arms, held out her hands to Mio. "Mio," she said through sobs, clearly relieved to see her friend. Ricardo, previously skeptical, looked at the cat with an expression that mixed guilt and admiration. He put Clara down and approached Mariana. He really saved her, Mariana. Twice. Mariana looked up, tears still rolling. "Now you believe me?" Ricardo nodded, silently. He knelt down beside the cat and held out his hand. Mio, exhausted, raised her head and rubbed her muzzle against his hand, as if accepting a silent apology. "Thank you, Mio," Ricardo murmured. The little hero didn't know what those words meant, but it was clear that something had changed. The next morning, the sun shone brightly over the Avila estate, but the atmosphere inside the house was one of reverence. Mio, the family's little hero, was lying on a makeshift cushion in the living room, covered with a soft scarf that Mariana had prepared. His wounds were superficial, but his courage had left a deep mark on everyone. Clara, with her sweet laugh, was next to Mio, running her delicate hand through his fur. "Mio, buddy," she murmured, with an innocent smile. Ricardo entered the room carrying a bowl of warm milk. He knelt down next to Mio and placed the bowl in front of him. "Here, boy, you deserve much more than this." Mio, although still tired, licked the milk gratefully while Ricardo stroked his head. "I'm sorry for doubting you. We'll never lock you away from Clara again." Mariana, who was watching the scene from the kitchen, smiled. "He always knew what he was doing, Ricardo. We just need to learn to trust him." As the days passed, Mio returned to his routine, but now in a new light. He was no longer just a rescued cat. He was the family's protector, especially of Clara. The fence in the courtyard was reinforced, and Ricardo installed a protective net over the area, ensuring that the little girl could play safely. However, Clara never played alone again. Whenever she went out into the courtyard, Mio was by her side, watching like a silent shadow. He followed her every step, watching the skies with his characteristic vigilance. The incident with the bird was the talk of the neighborhood for weeks. Some neighbors laughed it off as an exaggeration, while others were impressed by the account of the cat who had faced down a giant bird to save a child. For the Avila family, however, there was no doubt. Mio was a hero. One afternoon, while Clara was dozing on the sofa and Mio was resting next to her, Ricardo put his hand on Mariana's shoulder. "You know, I was thinking we should have a little plaque made for him." "Plaque?" asked Mariana, arching an eyebrow. "Yes, something like 'Mio, the hero of the Avila estate.' He deserves it, don't you think?" Mariana laughed. "He deserves the whole world, Ricardo." That evening, as the family gathered for dinner and Mio rested quietly in the corner of the living room, Mariana found herself looking at the cat with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. He had appeared in their lives at an unexpected time, bringing not only challenges, but also a lesson in love, courage, and fidelity. Mio closed his eyes, finally at peace, but never completely letting his guard down. He knew that his mission was not over. Protecting Clara was more than an instinct, it was what he had chosen to do. And so, on the Avila estate, the story of the little hero cat became a legend, told and retold, living proof that true strength can come from the smallest and most unlikely defenders.